Good morning, second graders. It's Mr. Hawley here. I'm teaching today for Wednesday, May 27th, 2020. Today's video might be a little long one because I have to combine all the learning that we've been doing for the whole week into one video. I'm going to try to not make it too long, but I also want to make sure you understand what I'm trying to teach. I hope you enjoyed your 3-day weekend and had a happy Memorial Day Monday. Today we're going to continue to talk about equal groups with math, and we're going to start finishing up some of our plant life talk that we've been doing with science. Let's start with math first and go back to remembering that I have the two main terms up here on the board, the vocabulary, still written for our math. Arrays are equal groups put into rows or columns. And repeated addition is adding the same number to itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is build an array. Excuse me. Today I'm going to show you how to use tape diagrams to help you solve problems with arrays or equal groups. And I'm going to make sure that you understand the difference between rows and columns and how to build an array based on whether the directions say rows or columns. So the first thing I just want to start with is to remind you what an array is. So if I have three yellow counters in the first row, if I'm going to make this an array, I need to make sure the next row also has three. And this time I'm going to use red. And I can make my array as many rows as I want to make it. So far I have 1, 2, 3. I'm working on the fourth row of my array. And I think I'll make it even a little larger. So if I look at my array, I have 3 in each row. 1, 2, 3. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows in my array. So I have 5 rows of 3. If we were going to write that as repeated addition, I said I had 5 rows, so I'm going to need to add 3, because there's 3 in each row, 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5. Each one has 3 in each row. So it's 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. Another way I can model this, or another way I can try to solve this, is I can build a tape diagram. Now when I make a tape diagram, I'm trying to see the best way to do it so you can see it. I'll do it up here. Each of these rows becomes a box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since I have 3 in each row, there's the tape diagram. And now I can add these up to try to figure out my answer. Well, I know double 3 is 6, and another double 3 is 6. And I also know that 6 plus 6 is 12. So 12, 13, 14, 15. My answer, my sum, is 15. Now I'm going to use this same array, and I want to make sure you guys understand that what rows and columns are. Because in one of your math sheets this week, they're going to have you build an array or draw a picture of an array using the terms rows and columns. And if you mix those up, your pictures won't look exactly right. Rows always go left to right. These are rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I haven't mentioned this last one very much. Columns go up and down. So in this array, I have 5 rows. I also have 1, 2, 3 columns. So I could say that this array is 5 rows of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of 3. Or I could also say that it's 3 columns of 5. If I'm talking columns, my tape diagram would change. And instead of having 3 in each one, I would put 5 in each one. And my repeated addition sentence would also change. Now notice I'm not going to change my sum because I am not taking any of my counters out of my array. I'm not changing the answer at all. I'm just changing how I talk about it. The last time I talked about rows, now I'm talking about columns. And in each column, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 in each of these columns. So now the number I add repeatedly is 5. 5, 10, 15. The answer is 15. Stays the same. So let me model for you what you would do if they want you to draw a picture based on saying the array by rows or columns. All right. So let me get some workspace here. I need to always remember that rows go left to right, columns go up and down. The way I used to when I was a kid, remember about columns is I would think about the big pillars or columns that are sometimes built into architectural structures. Buildings will sometimes have columns out front, big pillars, big round pillars that go straight up and down, and those are also called columns. So I kept that in my mind anytime I was thinking about arrays and remembered that since columns on a building go up and down, they also go up and down in an array. Rows always go left to right, like the rows of seats in a classroom or the rows of seats in a theater. So let's say that they ask me to draw an array of 2 rows of 5. First of all, I remember that rows go left to right. So I'm going to have 2 things going left to right. And obviously there's going to be 5 in each of these rows. So I just drew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 2 rows of 5. I could have also just put counters here and replace, but I want to show you how to draw it when it asks you to draw an array. All right, now let's say that it says 2 columns of 5. Well, columns go up and down, so now I'm going to draw my lines this way. I'm still going to put 5 in each, next to each line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 columns of 5. 2 rows of 5. Okay? Columns go up and down. Rows go left to right. So when you go to draw a picture of anything with columns, make sure that you draw your lines straight up and down. Let's do another one. This time, let's do 3 columns of 4. Well, I definitely need to change my picture. Columns go up and down. They want me to make 3 columns. I'm just going to draw 3 lines straight up and down. Next to these lines, and it's up to you, you can draw your shapes on the left side or the right side of each of these lines. Just make sure you do the same thing all the way across. So if I start on the left on this one, I need to do this one on the left and this one on the left. Just makes more sense for yourself. 3 columns of 4. The 4 is how many I need to put into each of my columns. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's column 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's column 3. If it helps you, underneath the columns, you can actually put the numbers to help you remember how many you drew. Column 1, column 2, column 3, 4 in each. Now let's say, well, I want to model this. I can model this using a tape diagram. I had 3 columns. 1, 2, 3. There's my 3 boxes. And I have 4 in each column, so I need to put 4 in each box. The repeated addition sentence becomes 4 plus 4 plus 4. And that equals, well, 4 plus 4 is 8. 4 more than 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. My sum is 12. So just make sure that you're keeping track of the difference between rows and columns. Rows always go left to right. Columns always go up and down. Let's practice one more. And let's do rows this time. I did a couple columns in a row. Let's do an example of rows again, just to help you remember. Let's do 6 rows of 2. Rows go left to right, so I need to draw 6 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going left to right. If I need to, I can put the little numbers here to help me remember how many I drew. Keep track of what I'm doing. So there's my 6 rows. Remember, the last number is the number that go into each row. So I need 2 in each row. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right here is an array of 6 rows of 2. If I was going to draw the tape diagram, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my 6 boxes for my 6 rows. Again, if it helps you, put numbers above them to keep track of how many you've drawn so far. And 2 is the number that's in each row, so I need to put a 2 in each box. Now we should all be able to count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Another way you could do this is double them up. So 4 and another 4 and another 4. 3 sets of 4 is also 12. The repeated addition is 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, and that equals a sum of 12. Now, when you're drawing yours of your arrays on your packets in the math assignments, personally, I'm just going to do round counters, so I'm not taking a lot of time. But if you want to draw other shapes, feel free. Just make sure you use the same shape in the entire picture. So make it all triangles, or make it all circles, or make it all squares, or make it all dots. Whatever you choose to draw, do the whole array the same way. Okay? So that's our math work on equal groups. Mainly keeping our new vocabulary straight, difference between rows and columns. Rows, columns. Columns are always up and down. Rows go left to right. Also, how to draw tape diagrams to help model your repeated addition to help you solve it. So when you hear a tape diagram for repeated addition, it's not very complicated. Just however many numbers you're adding together, that's how many boxes you need to draw on your tape diagram. The number that's being repeated in the repeated addition is the number that goes in each box. Now, for science, you should be monitoring or observing your seed. Hopefully by now you have some sprouting. I should have brought my plant over here with me. I've got 2 sprouts now coming out of my cup that are about that tall. I'll just go get it quickly just to show you. I just watered my sprouts the other day. I keep them in the living room in the front window so that they get a lot of sunlight. Hopefully you can see my little sprouts here. It might be easier if I put it. Let me put something up that's a little darker so you're not seeing it against the white. The tallest one is right there. I have a shorter one right here. So I do have 2 little sprouts coming out of my cup. If I'm doing my daily science observations and being a good scientist, I might even carefully with a ruler try measuring my sprout, seeing how much it grew. I would go with centimeters. Inches would be too big. I know my plant hasn't grown enough to be measured in inches yet, other than maybe 1. So I would definitely, if you're going to measure and observe how tall they're getting, use centimeters. Hopefully you're getting something similar. Your plant probably won't look the same as mine. I just use seeds I had around the house. Hopefully you've made a prediction about what you think your seed is and what plant it will become. So somewhere in the soil, I have some roots that have already started to grow. I know that because my plant is growing and getting water. So that's the way mine is turning out. Hopefully you are getting some of the same things. Now in your science this week, they want us to talk about 2 more things about seeds. And we have a special word that they want us to learn that comes with plant life. It's a very important word. It is pollinators. Okay? Pollinators are the animals that help germinate a plant. What that means is they go from plant to plant and usually they eat some of the nectar and pollen inside the flowering plant. When they go from plant to plant, some of that nectar and pollen sticks on them, sticks on their legs, sticks on their feet. If it's a small bird, might stick on their feathers. When they fly from one to the next, that pollen gets carried along with them. And that's what helps germinate the plant to grow to be able to make a seed. Some of the animals that are pollinators, bees, butterflies, birds, especially the little hummingbirds and the smaller birds like that. Some small mammals like mice might even. So pollinators are very important to the life cycle of a plant. That's why you'll hear farmers actually get concerned when they hear that there's a decline in the bee population. Farmers actually want bees. Now, when I talk about bees, when we say bees, we think of all the flying bugs that sting. Um, I'm specifically thinking of the things like honeybees and things like that. Those are the ones that are declining. Things like wasps, farmers actually don't have a lot of use for those. They're not as crucial to the crops as like the yellow honeybees and things like that. But bees, butterflies, birds, those are all important to the plant life cycle. Another thing your science is going to ask you to think about is how do seeds move? Because one thing you need to think about is like an oak tree, excuse me, an oak tree or a maple tree, it's going to grow seeds. Acorns are the seeds of an oak tree. And if when it produces its seeds, they just drop, which could potentially mean that the mother plant, the plant that the seeds came from, is eventually going to have to compete with its own offspring for food, soil, water, all those things when they start growing their own roots. So, how does nature provide the ability for those plants to prosper? And how is it that we can have a whole acorn forest when all the seeds are just falling off that one plant? Well, three things: air. The three main things are air, water, and animals that help seeds move. If you've ever seen the seed coming off of a maple tree, my brother and I used to call them helicopters because when they fall, they will actually spin. They look like little propellers. And if the wind hits that just right, they will spin and travel through the air. And they can go meters away from their mother tree that created the seed. How many of you have ever went outside in your yard and picked up the dandelion that is all white and fuzzy and then blew that across your yard? I know I did it when I was a kid. Those are seeds. You just blew those into the wind. Now that's potentially spreading those dandelions further across the lawn or across the road into someone else's lawn or into the ditch or whatever it happens to be. Acorns can float. So if an oak tree is living near a stream or a river, those acorns can actually fall in the water and float. Now, if they stay right in the water, they won't grow. But if they get caught on the bank of the river, they can get stuck in the mud and potentially grow there. Animals, animals like squirrels and other small mammals, birds, they actually like to eat seeds. And so they will eat the seed, sometimes breaking open the outer protective layer of the seed and getting at it. Well, what happens is, as we all do, they go to the bathroom, they will fly away or whatever, and sometimes those seeds can actually grow out of the droppings. So water, air, animals are ways that seeds can actually move. And that's one of the things that your science asks you to do this week is to take a peek at seeds that you may have had growing outside. How do you think those might move? Excuse me. All right. Since I'm only doing one video this week because of Memorial Day, I would like us to finally hear the ending of The Secrets of Droon Special Edition, The Magic Escapes by Tony Abbott. We are finally on chapter 12. I know it's been a while since I read chapter 11. Let's go back and see if we can remember what is happening. Salamander rushed for the gem, but Eric caught the wand and turned it on her. With its last gasp of power, the wand shot out a bright purple bolt of light. Salamander collapsed to the floor, crying in defeat. But just as she fell, so did the final petal of the wand. Eric watched, stunned, as the petal vanished and the purple light faded from the air. Instantly, the wand of Uric twisted and bent in his hand. Excuse me. And it became no more than a rough and crooked stick. Salamander rose to her feet at last. Goblins, if I can't have this world, at least I'll have Droon. In a flash, she was gone from the throne room. The fortress wobbled and quivered suddenly, sending the gem sliding into the shadows. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Shrieking, the goblins raced after the princess while Jabbo yelped and hid under his pie cart. The gem, said Eric. I have to get it. The floor quaked and heaved. Leave it, said Julie. It's better off buried in the past, but we shouldn't be. Come on. Pesh is going back in time, cried Max. Let's get out of here, said Kia. Back to the dark stair. Yeah, said Neil, while we still have a chance. Now, if you remember in chapter 11, Spar took off through the portal before it stopped. Uric, his older brother, actually followed him, hoping that there would be a chance to still get him to see if there was still some good left in him. The picture for chapter 12 actually looks like it's a picture of the dark stair that Salamander is trying to use to get into Droon. And the title for chapter 12 is New Friends, New Foes. Splash, sploosh, boom. By the time the kids reached the water, Salamander's sleek green boat was speeding away. She'll find Droon, said Max. She'll try to destroy it, too. Kia looked across the canals to see the sunlight glinting off the jeweled door on the far shore. We'll never stop her in time. Oh, there, do you need a ride? Called a voice. The old boatman waved from the water, his beat-up canal boat bobbing on the waves. Excuse me, but in that old boat, said Neil, we need something a little faster. Oh, but while you were inside, I've been making improvements, the boatman said with a chuckle. Hurry, the goblin boats are coming. The kids turned to see a dozen black boats roar out of the tunnels under the fortress. Each boat had sharp green fins sticking up from the back. After them, the goblins howled. I guess we have no choice, said Kia, jumping into the old boat. Let's ride. Julie, Eric, Neil, Max, and the young Galen joined her. Everyone held on as the boat roared over the water, seeming to fly above the waves. "There's some spell at work here," said young Galen, beginning to grin. "It's very much like something I would do." "It's exactly like something you would do," said the old boatman. "Or should I say, like we would do?" He tossed off his floppy hat. His white hair blew in the wind. His long beard whipped over his shoulder. "Galen?" cried Kia. "It's you!" The old wizard bowed. "It's me." "And me," said young Galen. He rubbed his eyes and laughed. "Well, it's good to know I'm still here after 500 years." Old Galen sped the boat into a narrow channel, with two goblin boats roaring in after them. "I'm sorry I could not join you in the fortress. You had your own trials to face in there. Excuse me." He jerked the rudder to the left and flitted into a side passage. Racing to the end, he sent up a huge spray of water. Whoosh! The two goblin pilots were washed overboard, leaving their empty boats blocking the way. Wham, wham, wham! Three more boats crashed into them. "Goblin pile-up," said Eric. "Serves them right," said Julie. Galen's younger self laughed, together with the old wizard. "I see you still like to live dangerously." "I do," said the bearded old man. "And speaking of danger, I see our old friend is back, cracking off the port side." "Row!" The kraken splashed out of the water and leaped for the boat, spitting black water all over the place. "That does it," growled Neil. "I've really had it with this guy. Kraken, it's payback time." Neil thrust his goblin face right at the sea monster and roared at the top of his lungs. "Row!" The kraken's big eyes bulged in fear. Then Neil swatted its snout, and the sea monster silently sank back into the water. "Ha ha!" Julie crowed. "You did it! That's two more points for the ugly goblin." "And now," said Eric, to the dark stair, Galen piloted the boat swiftly and carefully to the far shore, landing at the docks near the dirty plate. "Come on, everyone," said Kia, leaping from the boat. She led the small band through the quaking streets to the foot of the dark stair. Even as they got there, the evil princess Salamandra was racing up the black steps to the jeweled door. At the top, she turned. Twing, twing. She shot one flaming thorn after another at the kids. Kia and the two Galens made a shield of blue light. Plink, plank, the thorns fell away harmlessly. Salamander glared at them. "Fancy work, wizards, but you haven't seen the last of me." "That's what they all say," Eric called back. With a sneer, the sorceress slipped through the jeweled door and down the far side into Droon. "We'll get you!" cried Max, scampering up the stairs. "Evil princess!" "I fear we shall find her soon enough, my friend," said the old wizard as the city quivered and grew suddenly hazy. "Pesh will soon return to its distant past," said old Galen. "One thing only remains to be done here." He turned to his younger self. "You may stay in this world. You have a great task to accomplish. You must create the rainbow stairs." Young Galen looked at his older self. "Is that how I get to Droon?" "It is, and your journey begins now." The boy smiled. "A journey? Is there danger?" The old wizard laughed. "Plenty of that, and mystery too. Oh, the things I could tell you." "Master," said Max, giving old Galen a look. "Hmm? Yes, quite right, Max, quite right. You must experience it all yourself. But know this, young self, with friends, all things are possible." The boy wizard smiled and looked at Eric, Kia, Julie, Neil, and especially Max. "I think I just found that out. Well then, point me in the right direction. Where will I create these stairs?" I think I know, said Julie. She took Yerk's map from the brown satchel and opened it. First, you have to cross this wide ocean. Then look for a valley in the middle of three hills, said Eric. There you will find the perfect spot to create the rainbow stairs. Someday, a house will be built over it. My house. That's what starts the whole great adventure, said Kia. And now for the wand, said the old man. Eric took it from his belt. But it's all used up. It's just a plain stick now. Old Galen looked at it. When you found it, it was a stick. Yet it became a wand. Now, see what happens. The young wizard took the stick in his hand. Suddenly it straightened and turned blue, then red, then gold. Finally, a purple flower full of petals blossomed from the end and began to glow. Cool, said Eric. I guess it's your turn now. The boy smiled. A map? The wand? All I need now is a sailing ship. And it waits for you. The old wizard pointed to the shore, where their small boat bobbed at the docks. All of a sudden, the frail craft stretched in every direction. Masts grew from a wide deck, and shimmering sails unfurled. Here's a picture of old Galen and young Galen getting ready for the adventure. Looks like he's handing him the wand of Europe. It sat atop the water, a glinting silvery craft. That's a boat fit for an adventure, said Max. Now, there's a magic word if I ever heard one, said old Galen. Go, create the stairs. I will, said the boy. He raced to the shore and hopped aboard the boat. Instantly, the winds filled its sails, and it rolled away from Pesh. But, master, said Max, do we ever see your brother Yurik again? The wizard sighed. Ah, his tale is an interesting one, and I suspect you will also want to hear about Spot, too, and why I never told you who he was. That, my dear friends, is a long story, but it's one that I shall tell you. What? Oh! A sudden flash of brown hurtled past Galen up the stairs and right through the jeweled door. Kia gasped. What was that? Neil sniffed. Uh-oh. I think it's... Hey, if I'm right, we'd better hurry. Everyone scrambled up the stairs and leaped through the door just as Pesh quaked for the last time and faded completely into the mist. I was right, Neil pointed down the stairs. There was something sprinkled on the shiny black steps to Droon, a fine white powder. Flour? Asked Julie. You mean that was Jabbo? Jabbo's gone to Droon too? Oh, yeah, squeaked a high voice, and he's gonna rule the whole place. There, below them, darting down into the pink sky of Droon, was the little dragon, Jabbo. In his hand was a tiny blue gem. When its glow shone on his bumpy snout, he puffed out a great roar of flame and shouted, Jabbo's got the power now. Jabbo will rule Droon. Max groaned. Oh no, here we go again. Quickly, Kia and Galen closed the jeweled door, chanting words of ancient Droon over and over until the door seemed to fade away, just as Pesh itself had done. That should keep it closed, said Kia. Besides, you can't open what you can't find. They raced down the dark stair and into the land of Droon once more. At the bottom stood the great white summit of silver snow, just as they had left it. Salamander and Jabbo were nowhere in sight. I'll search for footprints, said Max. Off he scurried, with his nose to the ground. Eric shot a look at Kia. She was gazing up at the top of the dark stair, even as her face was lit by the sun rising over her own world. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? He asked. I mean, that was one strange adventure. Kia nodded. I understand more clearly than ever that our worlds are bound together, the future of one with the past of the other. And the other way around, too, said Neil. Julie sighed. It's sort of sad that there's so little magic left in our world. It explains a lot. Kia smiled. Galen said that before. Galen said that there was some left. I think he means all of you. At that moment, there came a soft whooshing sound behind them. Turning, they saw the shimmering rainbow stairs, the stairs that young Galen had created. Kia turned to the old wizard. So you did find the way to the new world. You used your brother's wand. You made the stairs. I did indeed, Galen said, and all is as it should be. Ahem, said Neil, raising a green claw. All as it should be, I mean, hello, goblin here? Julie laughed. And we were just getting used to you, too. You were handy to have around. Hold still, said Galen. Now let me see. Ah, yes, Eram on Nilbog. Now, if you could see those words, it's basically Goblin no more backward. Ploink, Neil's snout shrank away. His feet returned to normal, and his skin's deep green color faded. He was just plain Neil again. I have to say, Kia said with a smile, you really were kind of cute. Neil blinked. Now you tell me? Max scampered over. Look, everyone! Our two new enemies went different ways. He pointed to two sets of footprints, one streaked with thorn marks, the other made by the wide, clawed feet of a dragon. Yes, yes, said Galen, wrapping his long blue cloak around himself. I'm afraid we have a sorceress and a dragon loose in Droon. Duty calls us. Max, Kia, let's be off. Kia turned to her friends and shrugged. There's never a dull moment. Until next time. Waving, she and Max ran after Galen. I guess it's our turn, too, said Neil. As their Droon friends set off on their new adventure, Eric, Neil, and Julie raced across the snowy summit to the glittering rainbow stairs. They charged up the steps, then Julie stopped. What is it? Asked Neil. Do you do you think will we ever see Spar again? She asked. After all, he's sort of lost in time somewhere. Eric remembered Spar's last words to him. Our day is coming. I guess only time will tell, he said. Speaking of time, said Neil, it must be snack time. My stomach's rumbling. I feel like pie. Julie laughed. Neil, haven't you learned your lesson about pie? I'll take my chances, said Neil. Let's go. Glancing once more at the magical world of Droon, Eric, Neil, and Julie turned and raced up the rainbow stairs for home. And that's the end of Secrets of Droon Special Edition number 1, The Magic Escapes. Just a reminder, don't forget to be making your science observations about your plants. Don't forget about your science activities this week. Remember what pollinators are. Also remember to be thinking about how seeds move, wind, water, air, 3 main ways. Also remember the difference between rows and columns. Rows go left to right, columns go up and down, and also how to build a tape diagram to help you work out the answer to an array or a repeated addition sentence. Remember, if you have any questions, have your parents either call me or message me. Also, remember, tomorrow there will be a Kind Calves chat at 1 o'clock. Still planning on doing that every Thursday. So if you can join us, I hope to see you there. Kind of a long video this week. I hope, feel free to replay anything that you're confused about. You guys have a good week. Go Cavs. See you later.